I'm David Gray, and this is the second backpacking trip of the 2019 season. I think the theme of this trip is going to be big changes. The first big change is just where we're going. The last 3 years, I've headed down to the Appalachian Trail to do a trip during the springtime, and that's just not going to happen this time. So instead, I decided to keep it simple. We're going to stay right here in Indiana. I haven't done an Indiana hike in a while. We're going to be heading down to the Tecumseh Trail and do a quick overnighter down there. The next big change, and it's a biggie, and you may have already noticed, but this video is coming to you in 4K. And I can tell you, my trusty old Canon Vixia G40 that I've used for a couple years here, it's not capable of doing 4K, so that means I'm working with a new camera. I finally bit the bullet and went the mirrorless route. I've been thinking about it for a couple years just to reduce weight, so I ended up buying the Nikon Z6. I'd have to say we're still kind of getting to know each other a little bit. So I think what's going to happen on this backpacking trip is it's going to be partly Nikon Z6 gear review, partly first camera use shakedown trip, and a healthy dose of backpacking thrown in for good measure. My original plan was just to do a quick out and back to the Fox's Den shelter. Yesterday I decided to give a local outfitter a call just to see if I could arrange a shuttle, and they're going to drive me about 20 trail miles south on the trail. And we'll start from there. It's really one of my favorite sections of this whole trail, so I think it's going to be beautiful with the spring flowers coming out, and the weather is definitely going to be improving, fitting with that 2019 theme so far. It looks like we got a really nice 2-day break in the weather here. And I'm not going to be hiking alone on this trip. Brought a couple hiking partners along with me. That's right, I brought the dogs again. Jaden, not sure how many more hikes he has in him. He was able to do the Savage Gulf hike okay. This hike should be considerably easier on him and no bridges. And with that, let's get over to the State Forest Headquarter trailhead. Hopefully meet up with the shuttle driver, get this hike going. Well, this is a little troubling for a couple reasons. I don't really like driving through standing water on roads. And it also makes me wonder what we're going to be running into on this hike. This is what I call the backwoods boony entrance. Uh-oh, more flooding. This could be interesting, but you can see the flowers are coming out. The leaves are starting to come out. Beautiful time of year to be hiking. Just gotta kind of take it slow to keep from doing something really bad to your car. We made it to the trailhead. We made it. Well, here's the scene. The doggies think we're starting from here. Bailey's a little confused. Got another nice day for it. Believe me, it wasn't looking that good not that long ago. So the only thing I'm a little worried about, I hadn't even thought about all that flooding. I've driven down here hundreds of times, literally, and I've never seen anything like that. I'm not sure what that's going to do to the trails. We could run into some interesting stuff out here, but at least for right now, we certainly caught a break. Probably one of my favorite times of the year to hike in the spring when everything's kind of coming back to life after the long winter time. I think this is our shuttle ride. Hi there.
Hi, are you David?
Yeah, I am. These are Bailey and Jaden.
Hi, Bailey and Jaden.
I was surprised how much water there is. I came through some flooded sections of the road.
This is a wonderful time of year to be hiking because everything's coming alive.
Oh yeah.
You get them getting into nature when they're young, and
the best thing ever.
It is. It just it sets them up for more success in life.
I think you're right.
This is so beautiful, isn't it?
This is unbelievable. It's going to be a perfect time to hike. You what, baby? The dogs don't understand shuttle rides. It's like we wanted to hike from back there.
Right.
Well, ran into a interesting little obstacle. I wasn't quite expecting this. We may not be able to make it to the trailhead. Not quite hiking yet, but look at what we're dealing with. Look at this. Can't wait to see what we're going to be hiking in.
This is the showstopper, and then if you go all the way up North Shore Drive, that end can just be a shutdown as well.
Looking for an alternate route. That didn't work. Bailey, come on, Bailey, get down. Bailey. What are you doing? You just want to walk, don't you?
didn't know you were going on such an adventure, did you? Woohoo!
And we haven't even started
I
hiking
know,
yet.
right?
This is great. Well, we made it. This is our starting point. This is Lanham Ridge Road. We're at about we're 20 miles basically by trail south of where the car is. I wasn't sure we were going to be able to make it. So it feels good just to actually get out of the car. Now we just have hiking to do. About 10 miles today to get to the shelter. But Tecumseh Trail 2019. Getting to the trailhead was enough of an adventure without even doing any hiking. Well, I am very happy to say, we are hiking. We got about 10 miles. We don't have a connector trail type moment when suspension bridges, but we may have flooded stream crossings. A lot of high stuff we'll be hiking on, which is what we're doing right now. But then you go down in these valleys and I'm not sure what to expect down there. So we'll just have to play it by ear. This is what we've been running into a lot. The trail's sort of a stream. It just kind of like collects all the water. I realized in the intro thing I did, I was talking about the theme of this being big changes, and I forgot to mention one of them. I have left my trusty Keen Voyagers on the shelf at home, and I am now treading along the trail in a brand new pair of Ultra Lone Peaks. Actually been trying to find a pair of trail runners that would work for me for quite a while. Someone here on YouTube had actually said, hey, Ultras might work for you. They got the big toe box like the Keens. And just so happened that REI had a big sale on them, so I bought them. I've probably got about 60, 70 miles on them. Extremely comfortable and dry really, really fast. But the one thing I'm not 100% convinced yet is they're super soft and flexible. I'm actually pretty pleasantly surprised that I haven't really had any issue with that. We'll see on a longer trip like this how they work. Giving the Ultras a test. Well, we're getting to an area of civilization. I've hiked these sections a couple times. It's always kind of cool, this little road walky stretch here. I don't know if you can see the streams, but I've stopped trying to keep my feet dry. That one's a fat one. My feet are constantly wet. Stop trying to keep them dry. We're just walking straight through now. See anything missing? I guess we got to do a little backtracking to find my trekking poles. I left them at that stream crossing. Bummer. Right where I left them. Nice. Well, we're in the Indian Hill area. This is what the trail in this whole area has been. Kind of like a swamp. You got to kind of pick your way through it, and a couple times I've almost lost my shoe as my foot has sunk down to about my ankle. Rough, nasty hiking. Well, I promised to weave a little gear review, Nikon Z6 gear review into this. Bottom line, it's a compromise. I'm taking two very good cameras and reducing it down to one to do both chores, stills and video. That's going to be a compromise. With the Z6, I finally found one that it wasn't too much of a compromise. One of the things you may notice that I noticed right away as a compromise is in-body image stabilization. The Canon Vixia G40 was superb at it. This one not so much. As I was doing my test shots with it, it didn't stabilize nearly as well as the G40. I can do vibration reduction after the fact with different types of software, but that's the first compromise. The other is no zoom. I have a fixed 20mm lens on here. The G40 had a 20x optical zoom. Didn't use it often, but occasionally I did. I can do a little bit of zooming in post-processing, but that's going to be about it. A couple compromises right off the bat. I'll keep this short and we'll add more later. Well, this brings back fond memories. When I did this whole Tecumseh Trail hike. This is where we camped the second night.
Here's brandy.
Nah, just enough to flavor my coffee.
That was with the Central Indiana Wilderness Club. And it looks very similar. I set my tent up basically right there. Had the log just like this. The fire ring was on the other side though. This is the spot. Memories. Wow, look what I found. This is the very top of Indian Hill, and I can assure you this was not here the last time I was here. It's a perfect spot too because there's only a thin stretch from that campsite, the old campsite I had stayed at, up to here. The only place you can camp on Indian Hill. After this, camping's not allowed. I'm sure that's what that blue sign over there says. The only downside is there's no water source. We're at the very top of the hill, there's no water, so you'd have to walk all the way down to the base, which is about a mile. We're heading down. This is Indian Hill, and you get some idea of the grade. I remember when I came here with the Central Indiana Wilderness Club, we were coming up this hill, and it was pretty memorable because it was at the end of a really long day. And if you come to Indian Hill, Tecumseh Trail, realize it's a whole lot harder climbing up Indian Hill from the north than from the south. I remember all this from the Central Indiana Wilderness Club. This is where we started the climb up Indian Hill. Right up here is where we got our last water. It was kind of a collapsed bridge back then, I remember that. The river went through it, and then there's a railroad right there, and then the big highway is just up north. We'll actually be walking on that for a while. Glad to be off Indian Hill. It was just really mucky, constantly slipping and sliding, and ugh, really crappy. It'll be nice to do a little road walking here on some dry, hard stuff. Okay, well, I wasn't quite counting on that. That's a little bit of a problem. Bailey, I'm gonna have to think about this. Well, there's no way we're gonna cross that. So I think we're gonna use that railroad bridge because that is just nothing but bad news waiting to happen. This has been an adventure, so I think what we're gonna do is, well, I'm sure that railroad bridge right there is what crosses the river, so we're gonna use that. That doesn't even look all that shallow. Let's see if we can figure this out, guys. Whoa. Well, I am knee deep plus. There's no way to get out, so there's our target up there, so I figured the easiest path was probably just to keep going up this stream. I think what I'm gonna do, sorry about the camera moving over. I think I'm gonna crawl right up there where Bailey did. Help Jaden here a little. If you can't tell, this is almost like quicksand in this stream bed. I'm gonna have to crawl up through this stuff. Does this look familiar? Tyler? Oh, yeah, this is what we're doing. There's our crossing bridge. Look how beautiful the flowers are. I can honestly tell you that was exhausting. We still got a little work to do to get to it. We're going this way. It's not without its challenges. Just to give you an idea what this looks like, I really don't like looking down. I mean, it's doable, but it's not altogether all that comfortable. It's kind of giving me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. But we're on the other side. Uh-oh. All right, here's what I got to do. I got to go back and get you. All right, in the category of what a trooper dog. He is terrified, but he is doing it because he wants to get over here with Bailey and I. I'm gonna go get him. Save him some turmoil here. I'm so proud of you, Jade. Man, that is one good dog, guys. He's terrified, but he's doing it. I am so proud of you guys. You are the best one.
Get you guys some orange crackers. Get orange crackers.
In case you were wondering, yes, the thought did cross my mind that a train might come. This is a very active train track, and I'm like, oh man, I could just imagine a train barreling down here with Jaden halfway across that bridge. I was getting a move on there towards the end. You guys are the best. The best. Took a little piece of finger on that one. We got to walk on this road here, so for obvious reasons, one of the rare times I got the doggies on a leash. Better be safe. Right there is the road that we're going to. We don't have far to go. Yes, it has certainly been an adventurous day. Boring old Tecumseh Trail in Indiana has provided a little bit of a challenge for us today. Going to feel nice to get in that shelter and get these wet shoes off, relax, sit at a picnic table, get a fire going. Do I look white as a ghost? I had one of those moments, kind of reminiscent of when last day with Carl when my camera stopped working. I ran the battery out, first battery I've ever run out on a Z6, so it gives me some idea of battery life, which isn't quite as good as I was hoping for. Oh, I had the batteries inside the pack, not thinking I would need one until we got to the shelter, and I couldn't find them. And I had this horrible feeling that I had left them sitting on the table at home, which would have been the end of this video. Well, I guess there's our history lesson. Rogers Bridge over Bronstetter Holler. Good way to get across that little ditch thing, I guess. Here's what I get to deal with. The poor cow's like, what is wrong with those dogs? Our road walk is coming to an end. Here's where the trail goes back up in the woods. Up this way. Home stretch. I love my doggies, but they're not much fun to walk on leashes. They don't have it figured out, that's for sure. They don't do it very often. Home stretch, I'm guessing a mile to the shelter. Or maybe I'm hoping for a mile to the shelter. This sweet, short little day has been a little bit of a challenge. This is a pretty stretch. Right after we get back in the woods, an old pine grove. The smell is great. A little more on the Z6. One quirk I found when you're in video mode, which I am most of the time, the preferred focus setting is what they call autofocus full time. Works real well while it's in it, but the Z6 has this nasty feature, I guess you would call it, that if you touch the manual focus knob, and I mean even whisper on it, breathe on it, it thinks you want to control the focus manually, and it flips you into manual focus mode. And it doesn't flip back. I learned that one the hard way, fortunately on test hikes. We'll see when I get back and look at all this footage to see how many times I screwed it up on this actual hike. One more little Z6 moment. The thing I've learned on this hike in the sunshine, it's not even all that bright compared to something like out west. I need a neutral density filter. I'm shooting at 30 frames a second, and therefore the shutter speed you want for the most desirable pleasing motion blur type effects is twice your shutter rate. Something called the 180 degree rule in filmmaking. You can Google that. Problem is, the camera doesn't have enough exposure range. Oh my, did we get off trail? I see no white blazes. I see a bunch of things that look like trails, but no blazes. Hang on, hold that thought. I'll be back. Lesson to self. Stop doing so much film and pay more attention to the white blazes. We were going down this road here, which I thought was a trail, but after a while you look up and you go, I haven't seen any white blazes in a while, and that's why we're not on the trail. Left my trekking poles at that one spot. That caused us to backtrack. This one's probably not too far. Man, I'm getting too tired to be having to do trails twice. Well, I guess it's been a while since we got our feet wet. It's about time to have another one of these. Oh, that's moving pretty good. There's a sight for sore eyes. Ah, made it to the shelter. Not a bad setting either. God, all surrounded by these flowers, beautiful. We got it to ourselves. I don't know if it'll stay that way, but home for the night. The Fox Den Shelter on the Tecumseh Trail. We made it. One of the problems with this shelter is there is a water source, but it's all the way at the bottom of the hill, and that is not a trivial hill. As soon as I get settled in a little bit, I'm gonna head down there and get some water.
Keeping her waiting for her dinner and she
We just collected lots of water. That's the hill we came down that we now get to go back up. All right, now that we have the water chores taken care of, it's time for a tuna wrap. Tuna Creations Thai chili style. Not real creative. Tortilla. And something as simple as a picnic table becomes like the most luxurious thing when you're doing this. Just someplace to sit, work, and very, very nice. Patio. Oh man, that was good. We'll get the cheese spread going here in a little bit, but it's still early. I think it's a little after 3 now with all the water stuff going on. Not having to set up the tent and everything is pretty nice. Unless somebody shows up, we're just going to sleep in there. Really, really nice to just kind of mellow out and veg. I'll probably light the fire here in a bit, and we'll get the cheddar cheese spread going as we get closer to dinner time. Good first day on the Tecumseh Trail. Just kind of reading through the logbook. That's one of the cool things about the Appalachian Trail. Kind of a really neat ritual when you're staying in one of the shelters on the AT to go through the logbook and read, you know, everybody who's been here. I'll probably add my own little bit here at the end. I added my own entry, basically saying thank you. It's never too early to get the cheddar cheese spread rehydrated. They get a cute little package. I hope this is half of one from a prior trip. Ooh. Smells like cheddar cheese spread all dried up. And we'll let it go for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. They say 10 minutes, I think, maybe 20 minutes for the packet gourmet instructions. That's never worked for me. We're in no hurry. Not a full agenda at the Fox Den shelter tonight. Okay, I've never really done this before. It's kind of a Stone Age wood breakdown technique. Quite effective. Oh, that's just way cool. I think safety glasses would probably be recommended though. It is cheddar cheese spread time. We got lucky on weather again, so hopefully that's the theme of the 2019 season. I'll go take another shade on that. Oh. Jaden. Whoa, Jaden came over. Nope. I have a feeling I'm only going to get one of these because I didn't bring enough.
Just enough of a chill in the air that that fire feels really, really nice. I want to be right there. You funny dog. Dinner tonight is beef stroganoff, Mountain House. Dinner is served. Mountain House beef stroganoff. Add a little bit of soy sauce because it doesn't have enough sodium in it. Forgot the Parmesan. Oh man. Wow, that's good.
You can figure that out. I'll make sure these guys are good. Awesome. That's much bigger than mine.
Baby. Bailey's about my bed.
It's like a pallet.
Got company.
You can hold it even in loose soil like this. Where's your headlamp?
I have it on. I'm letting my eyes adjust. It's got a fire. It's all the light we need. Hey, see, man's got his priorities.
Whoa, you did bring a whole day of apple juice.
Oh my gosh.
No wonder your pack was 40 pounds. You have to catch this in your video. We have to ran into a couple guys. One guy had a 40-pound pack, pulls out orange juice.
There's a quarter of it right there.
He's got his priorities right.
Doesn't have any tent poles, but he's got a gallon of apple juice.
You're making hot apple cider? You ready? For the fireball?
This is like before
food or anything, right?
He's going straight. Priorities, man. Priorities. We need to make a dent in this fireball tonight.
Yeah. Wow, that's like ski
that's gonna
slope
be-
stuff, man. Like you guys are like having dinner.
Oh, that's the
10
stove.
o'clock, right?
It's not 10 o'clock.
It's technical. I'll stay up with you guys because you got the fireball and like 10 pounds of apple juice.
There's probably some rodents in that shelter.
It's, yeah.
Mouse,
Chipmunks.
mice, yeah, always mice. Good morning. Welcome to day number 2, the last day of the trip. Just sitting here in the shelter listening to the I think Bailey's ready to get up. Oh, big girl.
Oh.
Jesus. Kind of cool night, but just perfectly comfortable. Probably about 40 maybe. Covered up the dogs with the down jacket and whatever else I had, so they were fine too. It's kind of nice being in a shelter, not having to worry about the tent. I'm gonna get up here in a little bit, get some Dunkin' Donuts coffee. It's just so nice and toasty in this sleeping bag. I don't really want to get up quite yet. Getting light out, day's getting started, so we'll get day number 2 going. A few hours back to the car, and our second trip of the 2019 season will be done. Been a good one. Kind of an adventurous first day. I'm hoping for a less adventurous second day. Baby, what you doing? I think she wants me to get up.
get the doggies fed before my Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I'm hurrying, I'm hurrying. There you go. Now it's time for the Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I was wrong when I said it was kind of grungy. It's absolutely beautiful out here today in the woods. It's so nice to be able to do this on a picnic table. Dunkin' Donuts coffee on a beautiful morning on the Tecumseh Trail, and for the first time on the Nikon Z6. I think that's going to make it taste even better. Nope, still tastes the same. Day out in the woods in the springtime. The birds chirping, flowers coming out, perfect temperature, and Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Breakfast this morning is honey bunches of oats with needle. If it's working, why change, right? Simple, fast, tasty. My bagel breakfast. Good stuff. If you haven't tried it, you should. That's what you do when you forget your stakes and all your tent poles. Improvised bivy sack. Looks like it worked just fine. We are, I'm missing a dog. Geared up and almost hiking. We're all set to go on day number 2 on the Tecumseh Trail. Absolutely glorious day so far. There he is. Hi, Jaden. Okay, let's get going. I'm supposed to rain a little bit later today. I think we'll finish just a little bit before the rain comes. Keeping with that 2019 good weather theme, another hike with pretty much perfect weather. This is pretty much what we've been hiking in. It's an old forest road or something. Birds chirping, perfect temperature for hiking. Real pleasant so far on day number 2. Well, that's what they call a serious widowmaker. I have to walk under these a lot, and I'm always wondering when the time is going to be. Always makes you hesitate for just a second, and you get a little quick step when you go underneath it. Sort of makes me cry a little bit. I get it. The state forests are for all sorts of uses, including logging. With all the state forest Indiana has, you really got to basically do a clear cut right on the Tecumseh Trail, one of the few premier trails we have in Indiana. Just to put it in perspective, I've been here many, many times. Used to be deep woods, boony stuff. No exposure to the sun or the sky at all, which, man, makes you want to cry. Here's another problem with this stuff. It makes it really confusing to figure out where to go. It's like they cut down all the trees that have all the white blazes on them. Of all the choices we have for trails here, I think this is the proper one. I think I see a white blaze down there, so now we're in looking carefully for white blazes mode because they cut them all down. This used to be one of the prettiest little stretches, pretty kind of dense forest, and we took care of that. The doggies are cooling off. And then that bridge right there is what used to make this crossing a lot easier. This is Richards Road. That means we're 2.1 miles into this
second and final day of our hike. You walk about 50 feet on Richards Road, then you hang a right, go up the hill. Always remember this stretch of the Tecumseh Trail. We get into a series of rollers going down there, and I don't know if you can see the top of the ridge up there. And then once you get to the top of that, there's a little bit of a ridge walk, but then you go down up the hill to Bear Lake, and then straight down again, up another one about the same size, and then you're pretty much on the home stretch. A series of like 3 little roller coasters here to do. This is the toughest section maybe on the entire Tecumseh Trail, I think. Presents a little dilemma. All right, nothing to it. You just needed a little lift. I'd forgotten about one. We're going down to the base down there, and then hard to tell, but that's a ridge on the other side that's about just like the one we just went up. Then we get the ridge walk, and then we get Bear Lake, and then we get the one after Bear Lake. So there was actually 4 of them, not 3. This gives you a little better idea what we got ahead of us. Kind of make out the top of the ridge up there. Oh joy. Those double white blazes mean we're at the top of that climb. Now we get the ridge walk sort of thing. I don't know how I could have forgotten about that climb. Holy smokes, that was harder than the first one. But 2 of them down, 2 to go, and then after that it's kind of the home stretch. Well, look at this little stretch of woods. Sort of reminds me of some of what we ran into in Savage Gulf. They certainly had something pretty vicious come through here. There've been some really rough, as we saw from the flooded roads yesterday, there's been some really rough weather in this area. Little bridge kind of taking it on the chin, but it's still there. This is the Bear Lake Dam. Every time I'm in a place like this where you know there's an entire lake on the other side of that, always makes me wonder, like, hope now is not the time that it decides to break. I'm sure it won't. This is the climb up Bear Lake, or the start of it. The good thing is it's an Indiana hill. Even though it's a little steep and definitely gets your attention and your heart beating, it doesn't last long. There's a hill in Indiana that probably takes more than 20 minutes to do. Let's get it going. Hill number 3 of the 4 on this stretch. One more after this. And that is Bear Lake. Doggies are going to say hi to the fishermen. Gives you a little bit better idea of the terrain coming out of Bear Lake. This is what we find ourselves hiking in after the Bear Lake climb. That means 3 down, 1 to go. Tough stretch of the Tecumseh Trail. You'll remember this part if you do it. Okay, there's the next hill. That's the last one we got to do. And then after that, it's really a forest road walk. This is a really short but steep one. Indiana Hill. Get your attention, but they don't last long. So here's what it looks like at the top of that climb. Slightly uphill, but not nearly as much as it just was. That also means most of the work is behind us. A couple miles to go at least, but trucking it back to the car at this point. Significant milestone. This is what they call the wedding chapel. We're about 2 miles from the car. If the low gap trail was like a clock face, this would be the 1:30 position. So this is the low gap road. It effectively splits the low gap loop in 2. It runs from the 12 o'clock position down to the 6 o'clock basically. The very last stretch. The parking lot. The car is right up there. I see a sob, and it looks intact, Billy. We made it back to the car. So there you have it. The second trip of my 2019 backpacking season. Tecumseh Trail section hike. is in the books. Honestly, I went into that hike thinking it was going to be a little bit of a yawner, but probably a good shakedown trip for the new Nikon Z6 camera. But in the end, I think we got more than our fair share of adventure for an Indiana hike. The weather was absolutely perfect, as you can see from the sky. Maybe it's getting ready to start to rain again, so we hit the perfect weather window, keeping with that 2019 theme so far. And as far as I'm concerned, that can just keep on going the whole rest of the 2019 season. In terms of changes, the Ultra Lone Peaks performed perfectly. I think I finally found a pair of trail runners that will actually work for me. And for the new Nikon Z6, I still have quite a bit of time in the editing studio before I'll know for sure, but my first impressions were very, very favorable. And I got a ton of real-world experience out in the field, which is only going to make it easier and better on the trips we take later in the 2019 season. Tecumseh Trail, April 2019. A short one for sure, but also a great hike.